what are your strategies when you want to build a rapport with a different culture that you're not familiar with?
I said, Grandma, excuse me, I have a bad stomach. I can't drink Slivers. And she goes, do you want to be in this family? You're going to drink with us.
Yeah, you found your direction. You're not like a blind dick in a dark.
No, not anymore.
You know what.
I think you're swimming down a river in Egypt called denial.
Busted. Shit. Guys, good evening. Welcome. Season 2, episode 13, I think. And just in case you think Danny looks a little bit younger and sexier, I said that on purpose, Adler's here! Yay! Right? Unfortunately, Danny decided to not be here and Adler decided to be here. Is that how it went down, yeah?
Well, yeah. Hello, my name is Danny Bonnie. I'm pissed.
Good start. Yeah, could have set the scene for the future of the podcast.
Sorry, Danny.
No, we're not sorry. We absolutely meant it. And so Adler and I are going to be chatting to our host this evening. I will introduce you in a second. We're just asking our producer guest. Sorry, I do apologise, George. If we have any roles, he says yes. There's millions. Look on the website. So Danny normally does the business of the podcast. We're going to skip straight past that. Extelligence.com. Any jobs? We do need people. Look on LinkedIn as well. There'll be lots of people. But in the meantime, Adler, would you care to introduce our guest?
Sure. First of all, I wanted to say thank you, Kenny, for that very thorough
introduction
and timely introduction. Info matters, everybody. Yeah. And I would like to introduce you to a very, very exciting guest that we have this evening or morning or wherever you are that you're watching. Yeah. And Jorge Cooper, who is a consultant from a training company, Dinergy, and he's also a professor at the Vesha University, and he's specialized in cross-cultural communication, leadership training, as well as a lot of other things.
A lot of other things. So welcome, George. Good to see you. It's always good to have great people.
Good to see you, George.
I just want to, this is my first podcast. I went to the shopping mall and said, I'm going to be on camera, the podcast. What can you do for me? She goes, I got a shirt for you. Brand new shirt.
You made an effort,
She says it's DK, distinguished, and I look knowledgeable.
Okay, wow. So let's see how far that gets us. Of course, it looks great.
I thought you were going to say get your money back.
I thought DK stands for dirty and cheap with a silent K. What?
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be great.
I walked right into that.
Yeah, not at all. It's just all conversation. We're all friends here. And of course, we decided that we were discussing before the podcast started the subject of cross-cultural communication. George, we understand that's a speciality of yours.
It's not KKK, by the way. It's CCC.
This can go a multitude of ways. Don't get sued, Mr. Producer. Yeah. So, basically, I'm a Scotsman who came to the Czech Republic and forgot to go home.
Yeah.
Adler is... Go on.
Well, I am originally from Iran, but now I'm white. So,
you came into the Czech Republic, and you're now Czech by
so originally
passport.
Iranian, now Czech, with Czech citizenship, and
Hesky Chesky, fantastic. And of course,
asked
George,
him one time if he got here by walking. He said, I ran.
See what he did there, exactly.
I'm multicultural. My parents were originally from Mexico.
Got it.
Monterrey, Mexico, hablo español. And they moved to Texas many years ago, so I grew up in America. In a Spanish household, we spoke Spanish and English, and I have a Czech family. I tell people I'm Czech Tex-Mex. There's not many of us.
Czech Tex-Mex. Yeah. And the reason I was mentioning this is to kind of set the multicultural communication.
We have a multicultural.
And of course, Danny's from Manchester.
We have Khalid off camera also. So.
Yeah, and he's of a... I was going to say a slightly different persuasion, but
I'm almost a little bit Czech as well, so
I don't go that far.
So we have a multicultural
everybody
audience,
wants a piece of our country now.
What this podcast is about. It's about
well, exactly, and just to kind of maybe set the scene before we get into our Q&A and our conversation. When I first came to Prague 20 years ago, I led a workshop with our brother Joel and a number of other fellow Brits here in Prague for good work reasons. And of course, I came to the Czech Republic with my broad Scot, to some degree, original accent. I had to change it. However, it took 2 years for them to tell me that during those 2 days they had never understood a word that I said.
Did you have to soften it, or what did you do?
Well, good point. I find myself, if it's not obvious now, my family can tell when I've been away for extended periods of time, which of course I am, and my friends in Prague can tell when I've been home.
So it's a different how fast you talk?
Well, there's basically fast and faster in my case, but to answer your question, I had to slow down, be more pronounced.
Yep.
There are more Germanisms, Czechisms, Americanisms in my pronunciation. I would argue now, a lot of bullshit and stuff too, but of course that's just what happens when you put cultures together. So I had to kind of slow down and all that kind of stuff. Yes, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah, didn't understand the word.
Lying turd.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a good point.
Do you get Shrek jokes? Like
we have a standing Shrek joke on the podcast because for once upon a time I happened to come out with the phrase of "That'll do, donkey," and I don't remember the context, but yes, I do get that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good because I was going to ask you initially that this is a concept that a lot of people are familiar with, but a lot of people don't even recognize it, and they just kind of if they haven't traveled or if they haven't really worked in multinational environments, they don't even think about this as a concept.
No.
So how would you define cross-cultural communication? What do you say why do you say it's important in today's global world?
Okay, so there's one reason it's important. You're going to get the sexy job, you're going to get the sexy project if you're good at multicultural.
So how did it not work for you? No,
you shot the guy down already. Yeah. Go on, George. Shut up about it.
Okay, it's working for me. And I'll give you an example. Okay, I met a guy there's this new place called Levels Arcade.
Yeah.
Have you been there? And I was there at a party. And I met a guy, IT guy. There's two types of IT guys that I meet. And I teach a lot of IT. Some people think they need the communication skills and soft skills, and some people say, I don't need it.
Right.
And this gentleman said, he's Czech, and I go, what kind of company you work for? And he goes, Dutch. And I go, well, how's that going? He goes, they're very direct, and I don't like it, so I don't really communicate with them. I don't need them. I don't like them. I don't feel comfortable. I go, okay, so I can help you if you want, because I deal with a lot of Dutch and Czechs and IT companies. He said, no, I don't care. I'm just gonna do it my own way. And I think those kind of people are in danger of not getting a great job or not succeeding. You need help.
Or being stuck in one when you're kind of cocooned or siloed and all these words, of course, I think I know the brand that's in town, doesn't matter, but so Dutch are known for being, actually Scots are known for being direct and Dutch.
And so are Americans.
Yeah.
So I'm used to direct.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
No.
My first training class here I had 20 years ago, it was full of Dutch people, and they were challenging me me and my brother in the class, and I thought it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better than a silent audience that doesn't say anything.
Yeah, right.
Do you think do you think language plays a big role in the cross-cultural communication, or do you think it's more to do with the background of people and where they come from? Do
you mean like you who learned the language?
No, I mean like, is it different with different languages, or do you think that it doesn't matter where the original language of people are? Or it doesn't matter that
it's
which
embedded in their
language
culture, irrespective of the language.
Because majority of our communication is body language, right?
Yeah.
And there's the tone of voice and the actual language that we speak. Do you think it plays a big role in that?
The language doesn't matter. It matters how you communicate. Well, I've been here for 20 years. What Czechs tell me is that they like people that respect we're guests in their home and respect it and be nice to us and include us. And don't treat us like they're your servant.
Yeah.
I had one manager who came from America, and he was an IT company. The first day, he said to them, "You guys are doing it wrong. We stopped doing
Good
this
start.
in Silicon."
Right,
And he goes, "Why does everybody hate me? Because you went in the first day." He said, "We stopped doing it this way in the '80s. Where have you been?"
Yeah.
So you have to basically go and say, "Show me what you're doing. What ideas do you have? Include them." Treat them with respect. That he needed coaching.
Yeah, and I mean, George, I've seen that a multitude of times.
You've seen it many times.
I have. I mean, it's never been my style, irrespective of my management and what they desire. I mean, I was told, and don't hate on me, half my world, actually my entire world is Czech, and a lot of my friends, significant proportion of my friends, of course, are Czech, Slovak, and Central European, is that they didn't hire Czech managers above a certain level because culturally they could never adapt. They could never get people on side, and it was such a.
The Czechs couldn't adapt.
This was a British guy's view of when he arrived some years ago. Granted, I mean, of course, the world has moved on and evolved, and it was such a hampering thing for I mean, they've heard it now. It doesn't matter who they were, but they didn't. It was close conversation. They didn't hear it at the time.
Yep.
And I kind of thought, there's a lot of capability. I mean, the Czech Republic and Prague has evolved in so much faster than various other places for good and bad reasons. And it was such I thought a kind of almost arrogant thing to say just because they've been afforded the growth. Why shouldn't somebody else?
If I might add to that, Czechs and Slovaks are among the best IT people in the world. And some countries that are more, let's say from the West, have a bias, a cultural bias against anybody other than their own country.
Of course.
And we say even merry old England, which I love, USA, they have a bias.
Rah, rah, rah.
They have a bias towards their own culture. Everybody does.
Yeah,
you like
I think
your own
that's
culture.
common across. I mean,
Everybody
every person from any country, they have their own bias and they have their favorite countries and their non-favorite countries. But that actually makes me think of, because pretty much all of us have been subject of stereotypes.
A bias of of course.
Especially maybe in the recent years, Americans have been subject to a lot of stereotypes. That's probably
and
more
right
negative
now,
than positive.
It's going to happen again this year.
And how do you avoid those stereotypes and still manage to be mindful towards the cultures during
the one you live in? So
people?
Even as a resident American, Mexican, whatever you claim to be.
Yeah. I don't claim to.
No. I can't exactly hide the fact that I'm Scottish because you fucking hear it. But how do you maintain your respect 20 years down the line?
I'm going to tell you how I do it. Okay, so this is going to sound a little weird than the podcast.
You're in the right place.
If you get a local girlfriend, your credibility goes way up.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
Mine should be a limit.
This
is golden stuff.
I have a Czech partner.
Right.
If you produce a Czech baby,
we should.
You're in. You are now accepted by the Czech culture because you're part of the culture.
Because you ingrained yourself.
Absolutely.
Literally ingrained yourself.
But when I first moved here. And, it was like Disneyland, and I wasn't serious, and I had no idea what a family was. People didn't take me seriously. But when I had a family, a Czech family, now I take him more seriously. He's part of the Czech culture. But I just think that it has to do with how much you care about learning about the local culture, which I respect Adler. He cared so much. He
became Czech
citizen. He went through the test. Yeah. Now he's a Czech citizen.
Transition.
You've moved over. But George, you're right. The Czechs are very family oriented, and I can kind of retrospectively see how that went down. I mean, you mentioned Disneyland. I mean, Czech girls are not exactly ugly.
They're beautiful.
We fantastic. I mean, just amazing looking, and I'm fortunate enough to know and have dated some of them. As they are lucky to have dated me. I'm sorry, in commiserations. And I think it's fair that certainly as life's gone. I mean, Disneyland was some years ago for a lot of us. But
can I ask if I can tell a funny story about getting integrated to local culture? When I first met Gaia. My partner, we went to her brother's birthday party.
Yeah.
Everybody goes there. Czechs are very family oriented. And the babichka, grandmother, said, "Okay, we're going to drink slivovitz." And I said, "Grandmother, excuse
Standard
me."
integration.
I said, "Grandma, excuse me. I have a bad stomach. I can't drink slivovitz." And she goes, "Do you want to be in this family? You're going to drink with us." So after 5
and 2 for you.
After 5,
of course.
Passed out on the couch. But
the homebrew.
She took a blue blanket and put it on me, let me sleep, and they partied around me, but I was in. You just have to.
Oh, that's beautiful.
You have to participate in the culture.
Is, I think, I mean, there's always a price that you have to pay for integration.
And there's always an induction, and it usually involves some sort of clear plastic, or in my case, green glass bottle of some sort of horrific homebrew, and you're duly inducted. And alcohol being the connector of people and families.
Show you care, that respect the local culture, try to learn about. That's what you guys did.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that as a foreigner, you went through that path of integrating and adapting different culture. And kind of becoming part of that culture. But what I'm interested in, what are the challenges that you face still
after 20 odd years?
After these years.
I'm about to go through
especially when it comes to communication.
I'm going to tell you what it is. Is that people have a bias based on their perception of your company or your country's president.
Yeah.
So if they don't like the president,
like
they often don't
like
that. They don't like you.
Yeah.
I go okay, I didn't vote for this guy and I don't really like him. They go, but your country did. So how can you teach me leadership skills.
I know.
When this person's a terrible leader, and you go,
it's almost as if
like,
that carries all the way down, which of course is bullshit. And, right, and in my case,
well, it has
who the fuck would have, excuse my French, but who the fuck would have voted for the British government?
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I don't necessarily. Like, people hold you responsible for the values that you definitely you might not necessarily actually have.
Yeah,
or the beliefs.
I have an example. Romania. One time, there's a famous castle there. Okay.
Yep.
Famous building.
Dracula Castle.
Yeah.
No. Famous building. It's beautiful. It's
same.
huge. Anyway, so the tour guide is telling us, how do you guys like it? And we go, oh, it's the most beautiful building I've ever seen. It's huge. And they go, yeah. And the guide says, well, the dictator at the time spent all our money on this, and people are starving in the street. And he just wanted to build this monument himself. So you can't win. You can't win. If you say this is a beautiful building, they say, yeah, but he didn't help the poor people. So you have to know what's going on.
Yeah, and if you say it's a shit building, then they go, oh, you don't respect
no,
our culture.
No, you can't win either way, right?
Yeah,
Is the way to integration and cultural acceptance macro, and by that I mean, when I came over and forgot to go home, clearly, I mean, my 20-odd years, 22 years is off and on. You make Czech friends and you make relationships, and some fail, some succeed, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
I still think back to my DHL days, and actually one of the Danny, our co-host, who I've known for 20-odd years, he looks a little bit like you with a beard and a cat.
Yeah,
actually, that's why he's wearing a cat. You get the point. The reason I stayed is because he's brilliant with languages, shit in other ways, but brilliant with languages. and he had integrated. Then he grew up and learned Czech in the Czech villages way before Prague was as cosmopolitan as it is now. So I started to make little changes. Things like you'd hire a Czech guy, they'd hire me, and Danny and I have hired each other over the years, and then you'd start to, and actually talking to Slivovitz, I mean, the alcohol is a universal connector of people.
Yeah.
The same guy who said we don't tend to, it wasn't a definitive, hire Czechs above a certain management level, was the one that realised, you know what, you two, as in fuck, quit and ugly, me and him, Danny and I, go and get the guys together, and we still have the same friends today, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I always tell people, Czechs were here before there was an America.
Right.
There was no USA.
Do
you forget that?
Point.
Right.
That we were here first. I say we here because I'm part of the Czech family, but we were here first. I say that also with Italians, Spanish, the Greeks, the Chinese, India, all these, Iran. We're talking about these situations where they built something. Yeah. They created things that Americans go, oh, that's already done. Okay, let's borrow it. Yeah. And so the rest of the world was first. So I don't know why Americans are so arrogant, other than that we're taught to be that way. We're taught to be number one.
I mean, but I think it's every. I always say that all of these, empires or historical cultures or countries that existed, they all had their reigns, and they all were on the top, and they all had their own arrogant times. And now it's America's time.
Right, in their evolution of time, and now it's their time.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Romans were as arrogant as Americans are now.
Their time, right?
We were as Persians.
And Brits colonized the world and told everyone to fuck off. I mean, I totally get it. And we got the records that kick in the nuts.
I watched the first Gladiator the other day, and it's just a great movie, the first one.
Yeah, don't watch the second one.
And you just see the arrogance. When Italy was number one, Rome was number one.
So now it's America's turn. I mean, it's going to come to.
And so cultural indifferences have existed.
Wait until China takes over.
Hey, they probably in the cave, man. One guy had a cool cave with some stereos,
a nice club.
Music,
it's a bit more violent in those times.
Bachelor pad, and one person had shitty cave. I don't know.
Exactly.
But I mean, sorry, just you mentioned something that it really triggered a question for me that. Especially when you don't speak a language in a country that you go and you want to connect and build a rapport. What are your strategies when you want to build a rapport with a different culture that you're not familiar with?
I got one that works every time. It's really simple, except people do the opposite. Praise their culture, praise the museum you went to, the restaurant. What people do, they go to a country and they complain.
No, they tell they focus on the shit bits, right?
No, go and say, I went to this beautiful monument. Oh my gosh, I saw this amazing painting. Had some great local food. Ask them about their favorite place, and they will tell you some place to go. Go there and give them response.
Just
what a great
appreciate their culture.
Appreciate the culture. That's what you're for. I always think it's so stupid when people go on a holiday and complain. Why did you?
It's a very British thing to do. You go from it's really cold. Let's go and find some sun. It's really hot.
Yeah.
Americans go to a different country and they look for McDonald's.
And we look for a Greg's on a daily record. It's just.
I learned the hard way. I used to do it. I used to complain about the food. And I said, okay, I'm going to stop complaining because that's their local food. That's how they prepare it. Yeah. The only thing I draw the line on is I went to Istanbul one time, which I loved, and they had eyeballs and testicles. And those are
I think
two
you might have been on an accident site.
I've seen that film. Was it Indiana Jones or something? Or Monkey Brains?
I like round things. I like basketball, but like.
You sure it was not an accident site?
I draw the line on eating. I draw the line on those type of round things. It doesn't have
George, I got to be honest. It's not my favourite cultural cuisine either.
We had them on barbecue, and it's
in the Czech Republic.
It was like
it's
somewhere else.
Whilst I have culture actually.
Sure, and whilst I have the choice, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So don't complain.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
No, of course.
Praise them.
Yeah. So here's a question that I'm very excited to hear your answer about, because we talk about you just fasten your seat,
strap in.
Yeah. So we talk about cultures, as in nationalities, as in the people of background or where they come from and such. Yeah. You have been in this field for decades, and you trained all different kinds of industries, all different kind of individuals, from IT, from nerdy IT people to very seasoned leaders and managers, from students to people with decades of experiences. Yeah. To me, those are also kind of culture, professional culture of people and their environment that they're from. How do you see the differences in those, not in terms of the country where they come from or the language they speak, but the professional cultures and the environment that they work in the different industries and different work ethics that they have?
The area I see is the continuous learning, continuous improvement. That's what you guys are doing with this podcast. Yeah, you're trying to say in the information IT world, there's things we can do better. I was watching one about transformation the other day. I was watching one where Adler was talking about how different people praise, hey, you did a good job, and some people like it publicly. So do they want to get better? Do they want to continuously learn and improve themselves? The subculture is, I want to get better. I need people to get better. And the other one is, I don't need anybody, and I don't want to learn anything new. That's the subculture.
And do you find certain professions or certain industries that are more open to adapt and learn cultures or communicate better than certain other industries and professions?
I find the ones that are involved with some type of service. Yeah, like an accounting service, manufacturing service.
They manufacture services.
My first
manufacturing
time. You're supposed
service.
To be polite to
No. You can guarantee he was going to part-time swat, right? I mean, that's just part of the fun,
consolidated service centers.
I'm getting paid either way.
Where you're doing customer service, they're open to it. Yeah. I worked a lot in IT for 20 years, and I really like IT people. But I tell them, quite frankly, I don't know the hard skills. I admire what you do, but I'm going to use the soft skills. But you're going to need it to get the cool project. Or you have a great idea, you got to be able to sell it.
Yeah, of course. Right. And you mentioned a couple of points, both geographically relevant there, George, and certainly features part of our work on the podcast. One is Czech Republic for a long time has been the shared service centre of Central Europe. Shared services, IT, HR typically, transactional finance, and a bunch of others. And that brings a lot of it makes something of the Czech Republic, and if I think of 2004 and Hodov, which is a business park outside Prague, we all came here as we built up the data center. Some of us forgot to leave, but it also brought great businesses and brands to the Czech Republic and jobs, they would say, for other people. Relationships. There's a lot of DHL babies, let's just say that. Over the course of time, Prague went from being cheaper to being affordable, and in some cases, depending on your view, expensive. I don't think there's a better place in terms of quality and price to do it. However, some people decided that to go further east is the better idea. So now you have, in my world, you've got American internal customers, a mix of British and, dare we say, Central European service delivery, and then the support is Eastern India. Is that not the most culturally diverse? Actually, it's not. I've just thought of a better one. When I was that's typically the way the Czech Republic's set up.
Yeah.
The question is when I was at Orange Business Services years, they gave me the customer in the US, the help desk in Egypt, and the support function in Sydney. I was up for about 22 hours a day. Culturally, that can fuck off. Back to the question. You've now got that's mostly enforced digital cultural experience. Surely the technology doesn't always bring about this the best of that mix. Or does it?
Yeah. I'm going to answer the question, but don't call me Shirley. Okay. Okay. So,
the question was, does it?
Yeah, does it? Does spread and technology help?
So, if the answer is you just pointed the whole map of the world. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you can build relationships with all those parts of the world, you're going to have better results, and your career is going to be more sexy and stable.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person I can only work with Czechs, I can only work with Americans, I can only work with people from India, but I can't handle this country, you're going to die.
Yeah, remove the boundaries and you'll be more successful.
You're just more flexible. Who are they going to hire? Are they going to hire somebody that needs to go to India, China, U.S., Italy, and Greece, or somebody that says, no, I don't like that country. I don't do well with it. They're going to hire somebody who can go over there and influence other people to do the job.
Yeah, and that kind of, I'm going to ask you a question now about something that's very close to your heart. And I think it's kind of, there's a connection here because it's, what's funny?
He's an actor. He's like sign language your question. I quite like sign languaging your question. Sorry, please.
Yeah. So the way you're talking about, to remove the boundaries, working with different kind of people, with different cultures. Yeah. As much as the culture is impacting, the communications, there is also personality that impacts the communication, right? And I know that you're very passionate in a topic that you teach. It's the DOPE personality assessment, and DOPE stands for dove, owl, peacock, and eagle.
Yes.
And there are 4 categories of personalities that you can actually. There's like a proper assessment that you go through the assessment, and then your personality is one of these birds. Yeah. And you basically have a list of attitudes and attributes that you have based on that personality type. George can maybe talk about it a bit more. How does that impact the communication, and how does that kind of that assessment, how does it benefit people? Because it's not just about learning about yourself, it's also about learning about the person you're communicating with. And how does that benefit people? The
big advantage is that those personality assessments transcend culture. So like I go to China, okay? I trained in China 6 times, and I see the manager, and he's an eagle telling people what to do, okay? It doesn't matter if he's Chinese. The most important, he tells people to do. And I said, hey, let me ask you a question. What if somebody comes up to you and says, I made a mistake? He says, I fire them. Wow. I go, okay, well, as a coach, I say, isn't it maybe a good idea to say, what could you have done differently? Yeah. What can you learn? How can you get better? And he goes, no, I just fire them. I go, well, they might kind of hide their mistakes now. And so I might have to get through to the guy, say, that's wrong. You're gonna create a culture where everyone's scared of you and they're hiding their mistakes. And would you rather hear about the mistake today, where it costs €5, or would you like to discover it
month's time it's $1 million or whatever? Yeah,
yes.
Right, yeah.
So I might have to be direct with him and communicate and say, that's wrong. Don't do that. And either he trusts me or not trust me, fire me or not fire me. So what I find about the funny thing is, I like to use Guy as an example, who's my partner's an Eagle. She met Natalia, a friend from Slovakia, and she met her and said, boom, I like her in 10 seconds. Yeah. Why? Because she's honest, direct. She tells me exactly what's on her mind.
2 eagles,
They recognized each other exactly. My dad, an eagle, Guy met my dad, and the first thing he did is test her. He goes, "Who are you?" And he goes,
"Welcome to the American family."
And she goes, "I'm the best thing that ever happened to the Cooper family."
It's kind of like a respect, and they keep their territories, but they keep an eye on each
and he goes, "I like this girl. He's an eagle." He tested her. She fought back.
Like it.
So it transcends culture. He's Mexican/American. She's Czech. That's the beauty, is that you see somebody who is a dove and doesn't speak up in the meetings and quiet. That could be in any country. You can say, I need to talk to him one-on-one. A peacock, Adler and I are peacocks, and I think you're a peacock too.
Definitely.
So we can go into any party and work the room.
Oh, yeah, we can. Oh, yeah. So if that's what...
And we're telling the jokes.
I think you're more of a pigeon, but okay, peacock.
You're more of a cock.
And then the owl, very common IT, they like to code. They like to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I can the peacock. Be careful with that.
You see
I can see the owl being diligent and observant and quite insular.
Oriented.
Yeah. And I mean, I've grown to my kind of golden rule is just about a decade. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are. If you're good at what you do, irrespective of how you do it, And I as a manager can be overpowering, and I'm aware of that, and have a kind of reel that in. And my grand old age have learned that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You say it, top of the podcast, and that's, I was like thinking that's absolutely it. One of the things that I heard being talked about was, you know, learning and growing and all that kind of stuff. One of the things I want to do right now is none of that. And that's not absolute zero learning, but a degree of stability in life, because I've reached an age and stage where I'm kind of settled. Everything's kind of good. Just maintain the equilibrium. You know, I'm not saying not meet new people and not learn new things, but I'm not overly aspiring to grow.
I think you're swimming down a river in Egypt called denial. I think
busted.
You wouldn't be here, Kenny, if you didn't.
No,
want
to
improve things. You wouldn't be in this podcast.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You're saying you want to maintain, but you have little things you want to improve.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not absolute like Do you know what? I'm talking absolute shit. I'm learning to be a pilot, and I'm trying.
Yeah, I think you're a bit more selective into which areas you want to improve.
I'm spending my time.
Your energy.
I actually, you're absolutely right. Called out my bullshit. I'm happy with the progress that I'm making at work. Things are steady and all that kind of good stuff, and I've put more focus.
Yeah, you found your direction. You're not like a blind dick in a dark.
No, not anymore.
You know which direction you want to throw.
Stop that.
Is that a movie on Netflix?
A blind dick in the dark. Yeah. The second. So very well when everyone kind of gets on or aims to get on. What do you do if somebody just doesn't like a particular culture or person or country, dare we say?
It's happened to me many times.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened to Adler many times. So what it is, you try to find out why, and the reason is usually is resentment or jealousy.
You're right. I mean, this probably has happened to all of us, and there is, in my experience, there's this like a trick that I learned that I know for a fact that anybody who has anything against you and he starts any argument or anything that once it triggers a wrong communication, they've already done that in their own head before they do it to you. Yeah. So they have that scenario in their head. And when they do that to you, they usually have an expectation based on your reaction. And if you react the opposite way, they're not prepared for it.
You disarm them.
It actually disarms and it rattles them. And they don't know how to behave in that scenario.
I know there is one way to overcome this, is that this is something magical. It's really easy to do. Invite them to lunch. Something about food and relax in a way. Just say, I want to know a little more about you, tell you about what we're trying to do. Somebody you don't get along with.
Just be nice to them.
Be nice to them.
You don't have to go the whole length of inviting them to like a lunch and then have sex with them.
It's kind of pushing the boundaries of professionalism there. But hey, whatever lights the candle.
Just show. No, I think the gesture. If I can give one example, there was a lady we used to work with. She was in accounting, and she was Eagle, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm gonna take you to lunch." She goes, "Why? What do you want?" I go, "Well, in America, we take sometimes the office lady to lunch. We don't do that in Czech Republic."
Yeah, see,
and so the next day, I took her a pizza, and I just said, "What is it you want to do with your life?" And she told me that she wants to be go to school, learn accounting, and be an office manager. I go, well, I didn't know that. I thought you just wanted to make copies for me your whole life. So we actually put her through accounting school.
Wow.
And she became accounting manager at Dinergy, and we helped her career. I wouldn't have known that unless I'd take her to lunch. But she had a bias.
Probably still a bitch, though, no?
She had a bias. And I had to get
past that. Yeah, I mean, and similar thing. I have spent time. You know, what is it I always say? I'm friends with dickheads. Just because they're a dickhead doesn't mean I'm going to be one. I've kind of said variations
of that. Is that like
a
Beatles song?
It sounds like it could be song lyrics.
Did you say you're friends with the kids?
No, dickheads. I'm friends with dickheads. Because they're a dickhead doesn't mean I'm going to be one.
Okay.
And I've been known to buy drinks and food for dickheads because food and booze, the universal connector of people, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
And I have spent time with them. You can mentally say, I know you could be a twat, but you either have to work with them or you choose to because you know deep down actually.
By the way, if you can turn that person around that's negative towards your country or you, not only do you feel great, people in your circle go, "How did you do that, Ken?"
Yeah.
I have majestically unfucked a few things in my time.
Adler did that.
You have a habit of.
He can flip a negative person and go, "How did you do
that?"
Yeah,
because you know, for years and years we were the subject of negative media, negative perception,
absolutely.
And it was easy for me to get into those situations that people just hated me before even they knew me, and I had to learn how to diffuse those situations.
To diffuse that, offset it. I still get it when we get pissed up. Groups of UK coming to get pissed in Prague.
A couple of times people will tell me you're not the average American I meet, and I like that, and I take that as a compliment.
Because you left America, you went to explore. You did forgot to go home like me in the UK, but
I mean that's definitely. I mean it's actually great that you had your examples and how to deal with these different scenarios and just be cautious of the time and that. I just want to ask you as a professional trainer and a coach, what is your number one advice for people to improve their communications?
The number one advice is really simple: be other oriented. Don't talk about yourself and how great you are. Ask them about them. Find out what they're proud of, what they like to talk about. Be interested in them, and then they see you as more human. And easy, they like
it's the old thing my father said to me: you have two hands, no, 2 ears and 1 mouth. The reason, nothing to do with the hands. I fucked that up. But you listen more. That's I mean, I kind of, for the most part, that's played out true.
I think I've heard that. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen.
You do it
like double the time.
You do it when you're on a date with a pretty girl. You ask questions to her. You ask her about herself.
I don't remember.
I was going to say, do people date anymore? Or they just swipe left and swipe right.
Yeah, exactly.
Clue to a future episode. I'll let you know. Anyway, listen, George, we're going to have to wrap it up because producer's jumping up and down like a Batman.
I would like to thank Khaled. For this opportunity, I'd like to Adler and Kenny and Danny, even though he's here, he's not
always
here
in spirit.
It's really enjoyable.
Maybe one last thing, if you want to say, to your camera, what makes you good at what you do?
Okay.
What is your biggest secret that makes you good at what you do?
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what it is. That the Olympics in Paris had 204 countries. Over 20 years, I've met and trained 174. I met them in person. Some university professors wrote books, all this.
That's a number,
They never met them. I've talked to them. I went to lunch with them. In some cases, I became friends with them. And so I met them in person. That's what makes me different. I'm better than somebody who just
I'll
read
take
the books.
that. So 204 countries in the world. Most people can travel to 194. You're 10 off being to every country in the world. George, that's to be celebrated.
Thanks
my man, I actually love it.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
We'll wrap things up here. I'm not going anywhere yet, Adler, because we're going to finish up the podcast, so don't move. So until we see you next time, and a couple of weeks' time when we're recording, we do have a special episode going to be coming up on dating and technology. All information is to be released. Adler's already excited. So from me, we'll see you next time, and from him,
I'm just happy that I interviewed both of you, and see you next time that I'm Danny or Kenny.
Yeah, on the Nicely Rounded Finished podcast. Cheers now.